The boardroom door opened. Min Seok's champagne glass shattered on the floor. Jian walked in wearing a Tom Ford power suit. 3 days ago, she was serving drinks in a uniform while he laughed at her poverty. Now she sat at the head of his boardroom table. "I'm Jian Park, CEO of Atlas AI. I just bought 80% of your company." Min Seok's face went white. "You're not fired," she said coldly. "You're demoted. Junior analyst. Minimum wage. You start Monday. This is my company. No. It's mine now. And you'll work for me." Before we dive into this beautiful story, don't forget to subscribe, turn on the notification bell, like and share this video. Help us reach 1,000 subscribers. Thank you and God bless you for your support. I pray that joy, peace, and unexpected blessings find their way to you this week. Amen. Let's dive into this story. The champagne glass slipped from Min Seok's hand. It shattered across the marble floor of the Shilla Hotel ballroom, crystal exploding like his disbelief. And she stood 20 feet away in a server's uniform, black vest and white shirt, hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. Her face was calm, neutral, like she hadn't heard him, but she had. Min Seok's fiancée Yuna laughed beside him. "Honey, is that really her?" "It is." Min Seok's shock melted into something crueler. He raised his voice. "Everyone, I want you to meet someone special." 200 guests turned, conversations died. Jian's fingers tightened on the champagne tray. "This is Gian, my ex-girlfriend," Min Seok announced. "She's serving us tonight. Can you believe it?" Laughter rippled through the crowd. Phones came out. People were filming. Yuna covered her mouth in mock sympathy. "Oh no. Should we tip her extra? She looks like she needs it." More laughter, louder now. A businessman near Gian smirked. "Didn't you used to date her?" "What happened?" Min Seok shrugged dramatically. "She was ambitious, but broke. I needed someone on my level." He pulled Yuna closer. Someone who could keep up. The room erupted in applause. Gian set the tray down slowly. She met Min Seok's eyes for exactly 3 seconds. Then she smiled. Not a sad smile. Not an embarrassed one. A cold, knowing smile that made something twist in Min Seok's stomach. She turned and walked toward the exit. "Jiang," Min Seok called after her, still grinning. "Don't forget your tip." She didn't look back. The door closed behind her. Yuna kissed Min Seok's cheek. "You're terrible." "She deserved it," he said. What Min Seok didn't know, what nobody in that ballroom knew, was that Gian hadn't walked to the staff exit. She'd walked to the executive elevator. The doors opened. Her driver stood waiting, holding a Tom Ford garment bag. "Ma'am," he said quietly. Gian stepped inside. The doors closed. She pulled off the server's vest and dropped it on the floor. Underneath, she wore a custom Dior dress. Black silk. $10,000. She unclipped her hair. It fell in perfect waves. Her phone buzzed. "Assistant. Acquisition cleared. Kim Industries debt purchased. You now control 80% voting shares." Gian stared at the message. Then she typed back, "Good. Schedule board meeting for Monday, 9 a.m. Don't tell them who's coming." She slipped diamond earrings into place and checked her reflection in the elevator's mirrored wall. 3 years ago, Min Seok had dumped her outside a coffee shop in Gangnam. "You're sweet, Jian, but you're poor. I can't build a future with someone who can't even afford rent." She'd gone home to her shoebox apartment that night and cried until her eyes swelled shut. Then she'd stopped crying. She'd opened her laptop. And she'd started building. 18 months of coding, ramen for dinner. No heat in winter. She'd written an AI translation algorithm that could process 47 languages in real time. 6 months later, her company went public. Market value, $2.8 billion. Her personal net worth, $950 million. She'd been at Min Seok's engagement party tonight for one reason: to see if his company was worth buying. His struggling, debt-drowned, about-to-collapse tech company. She'd worn the server uniform to move through the party unnoticed. To listen, to observe. She'd learned everything she needed. And then Min Seok had humiliated her in front of 200 people. The elevator doors opened to the underground garage. Gian stepped into her Maybach. The driver closed the door. "Where to, Ms. Park?" "Home," she said. Then she added, and cancel my morning meetings. I'll be busy watching someone's world fall apart. 72 hours later, Min Seok paced the conference room like a caged animal. His CFO sat at the table, pale and sweating. His lead investor had just pulled out. The second largest shareholder had dumped all his stock that morning. Kim Ministries was hemorrhaging money. How bad? Min Seok demanded. We're bankrupt by Friday unless we find a buyer. What are our options? 1. The CFO slid a folder across the table. A private equity firm made an offer this morning. They want 80% of the company. Min Seok's jaw tightened. Who are they? They wouldn't say anonymous acquisition. But they're offering enough to keep us alive. When do I meet them? The CFO checked his watch. 4 minutes. Min Seok sat down hard. His hands were shaking. This was his company. He'd built it from nothing. Well, almost nothing. Jian had helped with some of the early code, but that was years ago. Ancient history. He'd made this company what it was. And now some faceless investor was going to swoop in and take it. The door opened. Min Seok looked up. His brain stopped processing. Jian walked in wearing a power suit that cost more than his car. Her hair was styled in a sharp bob. Diamond earrings caught the light. Behind her, 3 lawyers in tailored charcoal suits carried briefcases. She sat down at the head of the table, like she owned it, because she did. Good morning, gentlemen, Jian said. Her voice was calm, professional, lethal. I'm Gian Park, CEO of Atlas AI. I'm here to discuss my acquisition of Kim Ministries. Min Seok's mouth opened, no sound came out. The CFO stared. Gyeon slid a contract across the table. The terms are simple. I'm purchasing 80% of voting shares. Restructuring begins immediately. Most of the executive team will be replaced. She looked directly at Min Seok. You, however, will stay. Relief flooded Min Seok's face for half a second. Then Gian continued. You're being demoted to junior analyst. Minimum wage. You'll report to a 24-year-old intern named Su. You start Monday. The room went silent. Min Seok stood up so fast his chair fell backward. WHAT. This is my company. I built this. Gian didn't blink. You built nothing. Half of your original algorithm was code I wrote when we were together. I have time-stamped emails, GitHub commits, and witness testimony. That's intellectual property theft, Gian finished. I could have you arrested. Instead, I'm offering you a job. Her eyes were iced. Take it or leave it. But if you walk out that door, I'll file charges within the hour. Min Seok's lawyer leaned over and whispered urgently in his ear. His face drained of color. His voice cracked. I'll take it. Excellent. Gian stood. See you Monday, 8 a.m. sharp. Don't be late. She walked out. Her heels clicked against marble. The door closed. Min Seok stood frozen in the empty conference room, staring at the contract in front of him. His company, his title, his future. Gone. And the woman he'd humiliated 3 days ago, now owned every piece of it. That night, a man sat in a darkened office across the city, watching surveillance footage on 3 monitors. Gian walking into the Shilla Hotel in a server uniform. Gian walking out in diamonds. Gian sitting across from Min Seok, destroying him with 6 sentences. Kang Soo leaned back in his chair and smiled. He'd been watching her for 3 years. Waiting, planning. She'd ruined his younger brother, taken everything from him, driven him to the edge. And now she thought she'd won. But Siwoo had something she didn't know about. Something buried deep in her company's files. Something called Project Phoenix. He pressed a button on his desk. Sir, his assistant's voice crackled through the speaker. Schedule a meeting with Kim Min Seok, Siwoo said tonight. Tell him I have information about Gian Park. And if he asks who you are, Siwoo's smile widened. Tell him I'm someone who disagrees with her decisions just as strongly as he does. Min Seok arrived at Atlas AI headquarters on Monday morning wearing a suit he'd bought 3 years ago. It didn't fit quite right anymore. The security guard glanced at him. Name, Kim Min Seok. The guard scrolled through a tablet. Junior analyst, 15th floor. Cubicle 47B. Not an office. A cubicle. Min Seok's jaw tightened as he stepped into the elevator. The doors opened on 15. Rows of desks stretched in every direction. Phones ringing, keyboards clicking. Dozens of employees working in an open space. He found cubicle 47B tucked into the back corner. No window, no door. Just a desk, a chair, and a computer that looked well used. A young woman approached, holding a folder. Minsia, yes, I'm Sujin. I'll be supervising your work. She handed him the files. I'll need these analysis reports by 3 p.m. Let me know if you have questions. She walked away. Minseok sat down. Across the room, glass-walled offices lined the far side. Directors, executives, people who used to sit beside him in meetings. And above them all, on the 20th floor, was Jian's office. He'd seen photos online. Wide windows, overlooking Seoul. A quiet, powerful space. She was up there now. And he was down here. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. Meet me tonight, 9 p.m. Namsan Tower Observation Deck. I have information you may want to see. Kate. Minseok stared at the message. He should ignore it. He should focus on his work. But curiosity tugged harder than caution. He typed back, "Who is this?" The reply came instantly. "Someone who wants the truth to be known." That night, Minseok stood at the observation deck, hands in his pockets, city lights glowing beneath him. A man approached, tall, well-dressed. Kim Minseok, the man said. I'm Kong Si. Why did you ask me here? Siwoo handed him a tablet. Because Gyeon Park isn't as perfect as people think. Minseok looked down. Documents. Records. 3 years ago, Siwoo said Gyeon made several business decisions using early market insights. Technically allowed, but ethically questionable. Minseok scrolled slowly. This could seriously affect her reputation. Yes, Siwoo said. If it becomes public, people will start asking difficult questions. Why are you showing me this? Siwoo's expression tightened. Because someone close to me trusted her company completely. When things didn't go as planned, it changed our family forever. Minseok looked up. I've spent years collecting information, Siwoo continued. But I need help understanding how her current systems work. What kind of help? There's a project called Phoenix stored internally. I believe it explains everything clearly. Minseok hesitated. And you want me to find it? Yes. And why me? Siwoo smiled slightly. Because you understand how the company works. And because you want answers to. Minseok looked back at the tablet. Every instinct warned him to be careful. But curiosity won. Oh look, he said. 2 weeks later, Jian sat at her desk reviewing reports when her assistant rushed in. Ma'am, we have an issue. Gion looked up. What kind? Our stock dipped suddenly this afternoon. Some internal details seem to be circulating outside the company. Gion stood. Which details? Upcoming products. Client strategies. Nothing confidential, but enough to cause concern. Find the source, Jian said calmly. Immediately, the assistant hesitated. There's more. Kong Siwoo has been asking questions about you. He's spoken with several analysts. Jian's expression didn't change, but her grip on the folder tightened. The name made Jian pause. Siwoo. She had not heard that name in 3 years. What does he want? Jian asked. We're not sure, her assistant replied. But he's been meeting with Kim Minseok recently. Jian's expression tightened. So Minseok was speaking with Siwoo. She should have expected it. Please make sure all company information is properly organized, she said calmly. And gather any background details we already have on Kong Siwoo. At midnight, Minseok sat alone in his small apartment, the soft glow of his laptop lighting the room. For hours, he had been reviewing internal company materials, reports, summaries, long-term plans. The work was detailed, slow, and required focus. Then he noticed something unfamiliar. A folder labeled, Project Phoenix Internal Review. His heart beat faster. He opened it. Inside were planning documents, strategy outlines, notes from executive discussions about the company's future direction. He began saving copies for reference. Halfway through, his phone rang. Siwoo. Did you see the Phoenix folder? Siwoo asked. Yes, Minseok replied. It explains where the company is headed. Exactly, Siwoo said. Some people think the plan wasn't communicated clearly. Min Seok leaned back in his chair. I just want to understand everything, he said quietly. The download finished, Min Seok paused. Then he saved the files. The next morning, Jian's phone rang early. It was the head of operations. Ms. Park. Some internal files were accessed overnight. She sat up. Which files? Planning documents related to Project Phoenix. Nothing confidential, but we wanted to inform you. Gian closed her eyes briefly. She had trusted Min Seok's professionalism. Is he at work? She asked. He hasn't arrived yet. She ended the call and contacted her management team. Schedule a briefing, she said. We need clarity and transparency. But news traveled quickly. By mid-morning, discussions about Project Phoenix were circulating online. Commentators speculated. Analysts shared opinions. Headlines questioned leadership decisions. Company future sparks. Public debate. Calls flooded her phone. She ignored them all. She sat quietly in her office, watching the conversation grow larger than she had expected. Her assistant entered, concerned. The board has requested an emergency meeting, she said. They want to discuss leadership direction. Gian nodded slowly. On the television, an interview played. Siwoo. Organizations succeed when they communicate honestly, he said calmly. People deserve clarity. Gian turned off the screen. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number, she answered. Gian Siwoo said smoothly. There's concern about how things are being handled. You might consider stepping back for a while. It could calm the situation. And if I don't, then the discussion will continue, he replied. Public opinion has momentum. The call ended. Gian stood and walked to the window, looking out at the city. A knock came at the door. There's someone here to see you, her assistant said gently. She says it's urgent. Her name is Yoon. Gian looked up Min Seok's former fiancée. Send her in. Yoona entered wearing elegant clothes, carrying a leather briefcase. Why are you here? Gian asked. Yoona placed the briefcase on the desk and opened it. Inside were documents and storage drives. I want to clear things up, Yoona said calmly. There are misunderstandings involving Min Seok. She slid one drive forward. This contains recordings of conversations that explain Min Seok's intentions, Yoona said. Another shows that some public statements were exaggerated. She lifted the final drive. And this explains everything clearly. It shows that Siwoo's brother did not lose everything because of you. He made poor personal decisions and chose not to be honest with his family about them. Gian stared at the drives. Why would you help me? Yoona's expression remained firm. Because when Min Seok's career fell apart, he blamed everyone except himself. He came to me angry, demanding answers, refusing to accept responsibility. Her voice softened slightly. I want closure, and I want the truth to be known. She leaned forward. The board meets tomorrow at 9 a.m. Use these. End this properly. She turned to leave. Yoona, Gian called. Yoona stopped. What do you want in return? Yoona looked back. A position, Chief Operating Officer. I know this company, and I've earned the trust. Then she walked out. Gian remained seated, staring at the USB drives. Tomorrow, everything would change. And she had 12 hours to decide how she would protect what she built. The boardroom filled at 8:45 a.m. 15 directors, 8 major investors. Members of the press stood quietly at the back, cameras ready. Gian sat at the head of the table in a black suit, calm and composed, hands folded neatly in front of her. Across from her, Kong Siwoo sat with his legal team, confident, certain. Min Seok was not present. A written statement had been submitted on his behalf. The board chairman cleared his throat. We are here to discuss the leadership of Atlas AI, and vote on whether Gian Park should continue as CEO, based on recent concerns raised publicly. He looked at her. Double quotes Ms. Park. You may speak before the vote. Gian stood. I will. Siwoo leaned back in his chair. Gian's voice was steady. 3 years ago, Atlas AI faced serious challenges. During that time, difficult decisions were made, and some strategies were misunderstood. Murmurs spread through the room. But, Gian continued, all company actions were reviewed by the appropriate regulatory bodies. Every concern was addressed. The matter was resolved transparently and officially. She slid a folder across the table. The chairman opened it, scanning the contents. "This confirms a completed review," he said slowly. "Yes," Gian replied. All findings were settled, and the company was cleared to move forward. Siwoo's confidence wavered. "However," Gian said, turning toward him, "recent materials shared with the media were incomplete and misleading." "That's not true," Siwoo said sharply. Gian placed a USB drive on the table. "This contains documented conversations, where you acknowledge that certain information was exaggerated to influence public opinion." The room fell silent. She placed a second drive beside it. "This includes statements from Kim Min-sia confirming that his company benefited from work originally developed at Atlas AI, without proper credit." Quiet gasps followed. Gian placed a third drive down. "And this clarifies what happened to your brother's investment." Siwoo stiffened. "He did not lose his funds because of Atlas AI," Gian said gently. "Records show his losses came from personal financial choices unrelated to this company." She slid documents across the table. Account summaries, timelines, clear explanations. Siwoo's hands trembled as he read. This isn't what I was told," he said quietly. "He didn't want you to know," Gian replied softly. He was embarrassed. It was easier to let someone else take the blame. Siwoo looked up, eyes glassy. "I spent 3 years believing you ruined my family," he said. "I know," Gian said, "and I'm truly sorry for your loss. But hurting others won't bring him back. The truth matters." The room was silent. For the first time, Siwoo looked uncertain. Security stepped forward, but the chairman gently raised his hand. "That won't be necessary," he said calmly. He turned to Siwoo. "Mr. Kong, thank you for attending. Based on today's discussion, the board believes there has been a misunderstanding." Siwoo stood quietly, his shoulders lowered. "I see," he said softly. He gathered his documents, nodded once, and walked out of the room. The door closed. The chairman looked around the table. "Given the clarification we've received, I propose we conclude this meeting and move forward together." Several board members nodded. "Agreed," one said. Gian remained seated, her hands folded, her expression steady. The meeting ended peacefully. 3 hours later, Min-seok sat in his apartment, watching the morning news. The headlines were calm. "Company clarifies internal confusion. Atlas AI moves forward." He turned off the screen. His phone buzzed. A message from Human Resources. "We'd like to meet to discuss a new role better suited to your strengths." Min-seok leaned back in his chair. Maybe this was a chance to start over. 6 months. Later, Gian stood on a stage before a large audience. The Seoul Convention Center was full. Students filled the front rows. Teachers, parents, and mentors sat behind them. She wore a simple navy dress. Nothing flashy, just confidence. 3 years ago, she said gently, someone told me I wasn't good enough. The room was quiet. I believed that for a moment, she continued. Then I chose to work harder instead. Soft smiles appeared across the audience. Today, I'm proud to introduce Project Phoenix, a scholarship program designed to support students who have talent, curiosity, and dreams. Applause filled the room. This program exists because everyone deserves a chance to learn, to grow, and to believe in themselves. She paused. You are capable, you matter, and your future is important. The applause returned, warm and steady. Backstage, Yuna waited with a tablet. The response has been incredible, she said. Schools from across the country are participating. Gian smiled. That's wonderful. There's someone who'd like to meet you, Yuna added. He said it won't take long. All right. An older man stepped in. He held the photograph carefully. Ms. Park, he said kindly. My name is Lee Jin-ho. I'm a teacher. He showed her the picture. A smiling student in a graduation gown. She loved learning, he said. Because of programs like Phoenix, students like her will keep dreaming. Gian looked at the photo and nodded. Thank you for coming, she said softly. As he left, Gian looked toward the stage again. The future felt hopeful, and that was enough. He bowed deeply. Gian's throat tightened. She couldn't speak, When he left, she stood alone in the quiet hallway. She thought about every person who had doubted her. They hadn't broken her. They had refined her. They had helped her grow stronger. 1 year later, Jian sat in a bright meeting room. Soft light streamed through the wide windows. On the table were files, new proposals, new partnerships, new ideas. Minseok walked in quietly. He looked calm, different, at peace. He sat across from her. For a while, neither spoke. "Why did you agree to meet?" he asked. "I'm not sure," Jian said. "Maybe I wanted to close an old chapter properly." He nodded slowly. "I was harsh before. I let pride decide things for me." She smiled faintly. "We all make mistakes. What matters is what we learn from them." He looked down at his hands. "I've learned a lot about teamwork. About gratitude." Jian nodded. "That's good. Growth is the best kind of success." She stood. "Take care of yourself, Min." As she reached the door, he said softly, "Thank you for giving me a second chance." Jian paused. "Everyone deserves one," she said. And she left, the door closing gently behind her. The present day, Gian stood on the rooftop of Atlas AI headquarters, gazing across Seoul. The city sparkled under the sunset, alive, hopeful, endless. Yuna joined her, holding 2 cups of coffee. "Busy day?" "No," Gian said, smiling. "A good day." They stood side by side, watching the light fade into gold. "Do you ever think about the past?" Yuna asked. "Sometimes," Gian said, "but not with regret. Everything that happened shaped who we are. Even the hard days gave us reasons to become better." Yuna nodded. "So, what's next?" "Keep building, keep helping, keep believing," Jian said softly. "That's all that matters now." Yuna raised her cup. "To new beginnings." Gian clinked her cup against hers. "To kindness, to growth, to peace." They watched as the city lights flickered on, one by one. Below them, thousands of employees were heading home. Students were studying. Families were laughing. Dreams were beginning again. Gian had succeeded, not by defeating anyone, but by lifting others up. And that, she thought, was the greatest victory of all.